Does anyone remember that video I made about Machine Assassin in Xenoblade 3 where I complained that debuffs are bad and made the class bad because it was really difficult to apply them? What if there was a Xenoblade game where debuffs actually worked properly and you could actually get a lot of benefit and damage out of it? Introducing the knife in Xenoblade Chronicles X, already an absolutely fantastic supporting weapon, but also a weapon that can do some pretty impressive damage in its own right with the power of both debuffs and, of course, ether damage. In this video, we'll be taking a look at the knife weapon finally, discussing some strengths and weaknesses, and showcasing how to use the weapon as a primary option. As always, if you enjoy guide content like this on Xenoblade Chronicles X and want to see more on the remaining weapons and other types of guides, please do be sure to subscribe to the channel because it does help me out so much. I'm getting very close to 100,000 subscribers and would really love to hit that milestone soon, and every little bit helps. Let's get started. So, the knife has a lot of arts available to it, and we're going to try to go through all of them here. First up, we have Dispel. This is actually your only TP-based damaging art. This is an ether-locked art that has only 400% hit scaling because the bonus effect is probably going to be the main reason you would ever use it. It would just be to remove a random buff from the target. Because of this, you're probably never going to be stacking potential or building potential on your knife-based damaging build because you have much better options available to you rather than run this. Melee attack ends up being better 100% of the time if you want to do any actual type of damage, but if you are fighting an enemy that has a lot of buffs, you can maybe just throw this on your kit if you really need to, but most of the time you probably won't be running this in a lot of situations. Next up, we have Screamer. This is actually a really useful ability. You can just put any enemy to sleep. If you are running the Feather Touch ability and fighting solo, or you have a bunch of other people running the Feather Touch ability, you can keep an enemy asleep for a really long time and just kind of deal damage to them that way. And you can get a lot of benefit out of this against any enemy that is not completely immune to sleep. So it can be a very effective strategy here. I've already shown this off in a previous video. The most notable is the ray gun video, but you can definitely use this in any kind of build where you use the knife as a supporting weapon. And even if you're using the knife as a main weapon, it can still be really useful to have as well. So this is a very nice art to consider running in a lot of situations. After that, we have Black Bane. Now, this is going to be your primary damaging art for melee attack. While it is only another 400% hit scaling one single hit art that is also locked to the ether attribute no matter what type of weapon you are running, this one will deal 300% more damage for every debuff on the enemy. And as you can probably imagine, this can stack up and ramp up very quickly until you have absolutely a massive amount of damage multiplier from this art, just from the sheer amount of added to damage you can get from it. You can get upwards of 10 debuffs, so very easily a lot of the time. And this can allow you to get 3,000% more damage. I believe the maximum in the previous game was like 15 or 16, and in this one you might be able to go even further than that. So you can get a massive amount of damage. It's also a fairly short cooldown art that you can use very often, so if you can keep those debuffs on the enemy while you're just kind of wailing on them with Black Bane, you can get a lot of benefit out of it, especially with Overdrive, especially with Secondary Accelerator, especially with everything that can reduce cooldowns even further in this game. Black Bane is very powerful. It's going to be your strongest melee damaging art, and we're going to be taking advantage of it a lot in this video. After that, we have Chrome Armor. This just grants physical resistance up. Just a pretty standard buff, but you have better options available to you unless you just really need physical resistance based on the enemy you are fighting. So only run this if you really need physical resistance up. Next up, we have Absorber Skin. This will just absorb a fixed amount of damage by setting up the barrier buff, and once that barrier is gone, you just take damage to your normal health bar again. This can be somewhat useful just to kind of increase your pool of maximum HP for a little bit, or effective HP pool at least. But other than that, you're probably not going to be running it in most situations since you have better ways to keep yourself alive and better ways of kind of giving yourself more survivability. But it is an option to consider. Once again, another green art that you can consider running if you really need it. After that, we have Servant Sacrifice. This only really goes together with Brainjack, so I don't know why Brainjack is all the way down here and Servant Sacrifice is up here. But essentially, I'll explain both at the same time. First off, we have Brainjack. This is an art that can allow you to get any enemy under your control, assuming they're not immune, and most really strong enemies or tyrants are going to be immune. But if you can get an enemy under your control, you can basically stop them from attacking you, and if you're fighting other enemies, they will fight for you. It can be somewhat funny and useful, but you're probably not going to be using it most of the time, given that most really strong enemies are just going to be immune anyway. But if you are using Brainjack, you are able to use Servant Sacrifice here, which can just boost your HP and TP to max very easily just by using the art. And it will sometimes even kill the enemy, allowing you to, well, get all the experience and rewards that you would normally get from killing the enemy, no matter what their current amount of maximum HP is. It can be a really funny cheese strategy in the early game to get a lot of experience points, but you're probably not going to be using it much later on in the game, and especially not against really strong bosses, so you're probably going to skip on these for the most part. But they are options, they are funny, and they have some niche uses earlier on in the game at the very least. After that, we have Repair. This removes debuffs and restores HP. This is just a general kind of a green art that just has some general benefits to it. You can get some HP back, and you can remove any debuffs that are on yourself. If you're fighting an enemy that inflicts a lot of really annoying debuffs on you, you could consider this. Otherwise, you are definitely going to have a much better healing green art available to you that you are definitely going to want to run over this. And next up, we have Slit Edge. This is a weapon damage ability. This is the only weapon damage that you have on your knife attack. Everything else is ether-based as far as actual damage is concerned, no matter what weapon you are using. And this one is another singular hit with only 225% hit scaling, but can deal 150% more damage when you attack from the side. Now, this is completely outclassed by Black Bane, and you're not likely to be using this past the early game, so I do not recommend running this in any kind of really serious damage-based setup, unfortunately. But early on in the game, you can attack from the side. It has a really short cooldown and can get some decent damage when you're using it at that point in the game. But otherwise, Black Bane and all the other damage sources that you have are just going to be significantly better in the long run. Next up, we have Energy Source. This is actually one of the best arts you have available to you. It can boost your own potential if you use it on yourself, and if you're running a potential-based TP art ranged build, this can be really, really strong to boost your potential and increase all of your damage, which is really, really nice. You can also use it on a party member if they are using a melee potential build to boost their potential so they can do more damage, which is, again, really, really nice as an effect. A lot of TP arts are some of the strongest art options in the entire game for damage, so being able to boost the potential of anyone is very, very nice to have, and depending on your setup, you're going to want to run this. I am not running it on the current setup since we're trying to do damage with a melee art Black Bane, but depending on the situation, you definitely want to run Energy Source because it really is just that good. Next up, we have Secondary Speed. This is an aura that will reduce secondary cooldowns and reduce auto attack intervals. Now, you could consider running this if you really want the secondary cooldown reduction and you are running the melee build and you don't have a better option from your ranged weapons, since you don't really have a good melee boost on your other auras you have available to you. So this is probably going to be the best one to take advantage of Aura Assault otherwise. But if you can get a better aura from your ranged weapon, you could consider running that instead. Otherwise, Secondary Speed is not a bad option to consider. Smooth Recovery. This restores HP and grants Evasion Up. This is going to be much better than Repair in my opinion. The Evasion Up effect is nice, but the real benefit of this is that it is going to affect the entire party, which is very, very nice for two reasons. One, in Overdrive, this can give you a lot of Overdrive duration by being an art that hits the entire party, and the fact that it is immediate reuse as its bonus effect is very, very nice as well. And you also get the ability to build your count with this for some reason. So you can actually build up count by hitting yourself and all of your allies with Smooth Recovery, meaning you can actually get a count up to 8 every time you keep using Smooth Recovery, which is really, really nice for building Overdrive count, and really nice just as a general effect to boost both your duration and your count. Smooth Recovery is one of the absolute best knife arts in the entire game because of that. Absolutely recommend it, especially if you are in the early game and you want to use Overdrive-based builds. Smooth Recovery is an essential art to get the most benefit out of Overdrive. It is very, very good. It's a pretty decent HP restore as well if you really need it. It grants Evasion Up so you get hit less often. All around, Smooth Recovery is a fantastic art. Next up, we have Black Butterfly, also one of the best arts in the entire game. This is guaranteed ether damage no matter what your weapon is. Once again, it inflicts ether resistance down, which is very, very good, and also shortens any aura effect time. So if you fight an enemy with an aura, like, hey, Gradivis has a really annoying aura sometimes, you can shorten that aura effect time so you can do more damage by reducing the duration of that aura, which can be very nice. It's also 4 hits with 300% hit scaling for 1,200% total scaling, so even on its own, it is definitely not a weak or bad art. But also being able to apply that ether resistance down means it increases its own damage, essentially, by applying ether resistance down, which is incredible. And all around, this is a very, very strong melee-based art that goes very well with Black Bane. You can kind of alternate these two arts and get a lot of damage on any enemy in the entire game. So I definitely recommend running Black Butterfly on basically every single setup. It is very strong, very, very good. It's a little bit slower than Black Bane, but you can get a lot of damage and benefit out of it, especially if you keep out that ether resistance down effect on the enemy. So Black Butterfly, very, very strong for any kind of melee build. Absolutely recommended to run it. We've already talked about Brainjack. So Full Specs. Full Specs is actually a really nice aura in a lot of situations. It's just not nice for the melee build for the knife. This boosts potential in ranged attack specifically, but not melee attack, making this actually a really good aura for basically any type of ranged weapon build. If you want to run a ranged weapon and use ranged attack or potential, this is a fantastic aura that boosts them a pretty sizable amount. So that makes this a great aura for your ranged weapon, but if you're trying to use the melee aspect of the knife to do damage, this is unfortunately not a very good aura. So because of that, we're going to be passing on it in this video, in this setup, but it is very, very good as a supporting aura. You've seen it in previous videos if you've been watching all of them. This is still a great aura, great art to have depending on the setup you are running. It really just depends. And then the final art that the knife has is just Recuperate. This boosts your evasion and continuously restores HP, which is kind of a way to self-sustain yourself. Not the best aura since you have better ways to have survivability in this game, but it can be an option, especially if you're early on in the game. You want to kind of stack the evasion boost effect with smooth recovery and try to go for some type of evasion-based build, which can somewhat be viable if you kind of spec into that a little bit. Otherwise, probably pass on this and just run a secondary speed if you need that aura from the knife, or run a better aura from your ranged weapon if you can. Speaking of better auras, I'm running Dual Dynamo. This will boost the melee attack of the knife, which is a very nice effect to have. One of the best effects that you can get from a aura from your ranged weapon, which means I'm running these Psycho Launchers. The Psycho Launchers is also additionally beneficial because it comes with a decent amount of debuff effects on its arts, which kind of specs into helping Black Bane do as much damage as possible. So I think this is going to be a really effective weapon because of that. It also comes with Starlight Kick, which is a nice topple art that we're going to be using, which combos well with Jet Stream, which inflicts stun on enemies, which is also very nice to have. So we have some useful debuff effects from this, which can be really, really nice. Also have Stellar Ray, which inflicts beam resistance down. We don't even use beam damage, but it's another debuff, so you get more damage out of it, right? So that's going to make this a pretty nice weapon to have. This will also be the first time I'm actually going to be using party members in the video, since I'm going to be focused on toppling the enemies. We'll be able to have the party members just kind of apply extra debuffs for us. I've kind of set my 3 party members up for debuffs, so they're able to apply more debuffs, so I can do more damage with Black Bane and just kind of show that off. So that's going to be a really nice thing that we're going to be able to do here as well. I could consider running a Howling Soul user as well, but that would be spoilers, so, you know, not going to be able to do that in this video. But you can run Howling Soul if you can to increase your damage even further, which can be very nice also. Outside of that, for these skills, I'm going to be running Core Crusher, obviously. Knife is very, very much speccing into ether damage. All of its attacks except for one all deal ether damage no matter what type of weapon you are running. So that makes Core Crusher additionally very beneficial for it, since you will do 100% 50% independent multiplier damage to absolutely everything. So Core Crusher is very, very strong. You also get it from the Mastermind class, which is very, very nice to have. Aura Assault also is really beneficial for another 30% independent multiplier to all of our melee attack and melee damage, just when we have an aura active. So we definitely want to run that and lean into that so we do as much damage with Black Bane and Black Butterfly as possible. Mighty Muscle, once again, is another way to boost our melee attack to kind of take advantage of that. And then we have Long Topple. This is to topple the enemies longer, so we don't have to keep refreshing that. I also have HB set up to topple if he can, but AI is a little bit unreliable for that, so I have Long Topple equipped just to kind of help with that. And then finally, I have Secondary Accelerator. This is going to reduce all of my secondary cooldowns by 50%, so I can use my arts even more often. This is going to combo very well with some of the augments that I have set up also. Other considerations would, of course, be if you're running a sleep build, Feather Touch is really, really powerful to have. You could run Fast Forward if you're not using or Rapid Cooldown augments, which, spoiler alert, I am. And there's some other potential damage boosts you could consider, like Ether Boost, Night Vision, background noise if you're attacking from behind. So there's plenty of options you have available to you if you want to kind of run a different setup than what I'm running here. But I think for the most generally consistent setup, if you are focused on toppling, this is going to be the best options to have. The first 3 skills especially is going to be the best ways to get some damage boosts out of this. For my gear, as I mentioned, it does not matter what type of knife you are running. I am running a physical knife, just the Ultra Diamond Knife 2, because this can come with both melee attack up and Appendage Crusher, meaning this is very, very beneficial for doing a lot of damage to the enemy, since we get both a melee attack up and an Appendage Crusher from this weapon, which is really, really nice to have to do as much damage as possible. My Striker launchers here are just the ones you get from Chapter 13.3, so they have the 4 slots available to it, so I can run even more damage boost on them. I can get my 5 Appendage Crushers with the setup I currently have, 1 from my eye patch, 1 from my melee weapon, and then 3 as augment effects. And then I can run 4 melee attack ups besides that, or 3 melee attack ups and 1 melee attack boost to boost my melee attack damage as much as possible, while also stacking that Appendage Crusher multiplier up to the maximum value, so we can do a lot of additional damage to any enemy that we are fighting. For armor itself, there are kind of 2 different things you can spec into as far as your augments. You can either run Aura Rapid Cooldown, which can be very nice to have, so you can use Black Bane and Black Butterfly more often once you actually stack up your Overdrive. Or you could consider running the Overdrive Gain TP augment and the Grand Procession skills to make Overdrive free, while also feeding your AI party members TP so they can activate Overdrive and have better chances of activating and using their debuff arts, so you can apply more debuffs to the enemy that way. And that can be a very effective strategy as well, depending. I personally really like the Aura Rapid Cooldown strat, and I like the Overdrive Gain TP strat as well. It really just depends on what you're going to want to do. But with Overdrive Gain TP, you won't be able to use your damaging arts as often as you might with the Aura Rapid Cooldown, but you will be able to stack up Overdrive a lot faster to maximum count and kind of start those rotations sooner. So it really just depends on what you want to do. Aura Rapid Cooldown is fun, Overdrive Gain TP is fun, and you can also make your party members a bit more useful if you run the Overdrive Gain TP build, but you will have to replace one of your skills with the Grand Procession if you do that from the Duelist class line, so do keep that in mind as well. As far as the actual gear itself, once again, I'm running a eye patch for the Appendage Crusher effect, so we can hit all 5 Appendage Crushers. And then outside of that, I am focused on boosting my melee attack as much as possible. The Ultra Boundless Bracer comes with max TP up, so I have more than 3,000 TP just to make everything a bit easier, while also coming with melee attack boost. And then Ultra Regal Ward will have the Overdrive count up augment. You're going to need at least one of those if you're going to use the Overdrive gain TP build to make sure you can get to max count immediately just from spamming Overdrive, as you've probably seen in some of my previous videos. Outside of that, everything is just focused into building my melee attack as much as possible. The original vest and the original boots are the only way to get melee attack as a trait on your legs and your torso, so I have those equipped to boost my melee attack as much as possible. I have reached a value of 1,775, which is definitely really solid, really nice. And assuming everything works properly, we're going to be able to do a lot of damage with this setup. I think that is going to cover it for the setup, though. Let's go ahead and take a look into how to use this class practically. So I'm going to show both Aura Rapid Cooldown and Overdrive Gain TP here because they kind of both work and they kind of both work out just fine here. So I start with the Aura Rapid Cooldown set. I'm going to start by just kind of making sure that I keep Gradivis toppled so my AI party members don't die and they can kind of go ham at the same time. And I'm going to be spamming Smooth Recovery a lot here. This is going to both boost my duration of Overdrive and give me a lot of count every time I spam it. I reapply Stun just to kind of make sure that I can spam Smooth Recovery a little bit more here. And then Gradivis is going to get up, and then I'm going to use Topple again. So Smooth Recovery is my main way of building count here. Once again, then I Topple and use Stun when I can to make sure that I can keep him toppled. And then Smooth Recovery gives a lot of count, a lot of duration, especially once you get that higher count. Just got about 15 seconds there. Just got about 18 seconds there. There's one more Smooth Recovery, gets me to 98 count. I'm also maxed out on the counter now, so I'm basically set as far as Overdrive is concerned. So I can now kind of just go into my combo and everything that I want to do here. So I'll do Dynamo, activate my Aura. I use Celery here to just kind of apply additional debuff effect. And then I'm going to use Black Butterfly as my ether damage here, and then I'm going to go into Black Bane. And Black Bane just did 9 million damage with only like 4 or 5 debuffs there, which is really nice. And you can see just how much damage it's going to end up doing, assuming everything goes well. So I need to rely on my AI some, so they're not the best at keeping debuffs up. I only did 6 million damage there, unfortunately. But if they can keep things up, it can go really well and really smoothly. Another 7 million damage. Even if they don't, you can still see the massive amount of damage Black Bane can do just with the ether resistance down, with the ether damage, and just with a few debuffs. Because you can, even with only 3 debuffs, it's still 900% bonus damage, which is really strong regardless. But you can do a lot if everything goes very well. Another 10 million damage there. And all around, Gradivis is basically already dead. And then HB actually does his job of toppling, which is really nice. And then I go into another Black Butterfly there. So here is the Overdrive Gain TP. I can instantly get to max count here and just immediately go into a Topple Stun, which is very nice. And I'm going to do activate my Aura as well, so I'm able to use that. I can kind of mix in my Overdrive to kind of give my party members more TP, so they're able to activate Overdrive themselves. And then I accidentally topple Gradivis a little bit too far away, so I'm going to have to run up to him now and use Black Butterfly, Black Bane to get my damage off here. We've got another 10 million damage from 4 debuffs there. I wish my AI was doing a better job of keeping their debuffs up because I've clicked with all the debuff buffs they could do. Maybe I should use some better AI, but I thought this would be a pretty good team here. And with 6 debuffs there, I was able to do 13 million damage. That was really nice. And like I said, you can actually get up north of 15 million damage using some proper scouts, maybe using the right party setup, maybe having them have like abilities to resistance down enemies with some of their augments. I don't feel like setting all of that up, but even still, you can see the massive amount of damage I'm doing. You can definitely do a lot more if you have the proper setup with all of the debuffs possible, but even for this demonstration, you're seeing how fast Gradivis can go down in the right situations here. This was a very simple fight here, and just one more Black Bane's pretty much going to do it. I do end up getting knocked back really funnily, though, before I can actually get that Black Bane off, but not really the biggest deal in the world. Just using it here just ends up getting the kill here with another 10 million damage setup. You can also very easily do this with the Global Nemesis enemies since they're not immune to topple. You can bring your AI party members in with you, and this can be one of the easiest ways to get a lot of RP in these runs if you do not have any kind of better setup or any kind of better survivability here. So that is really nice. The one thing I will say is it's going to be harder to apply debuffs to some of the really strong super bosses like Telethia and Pharsis. They're immune to a lot of debuffs, and they're also kind of in a location where it can be very difficult to hit them with melee attacks, especially with your entire party. So it's going to be a harder setup against those enemies. Not that you can't make it work, but it is going to be a harder setup against those enemies, and I think it's going to be a poor demonstration of the power of debuffs. You can see against Eagleluth here, I was able to get a decent amount of debuffs against him a lot of the time. I was always targeting the wrong appendage, though. I want to target not the chest here to get the most damage. You can also break the chest. Well, if you bring a skill that breaks the chest, like a Gossamer Cannon on Ares 90, you can target the weak point in the middle, stack even more melee attack, because you only need one appendage crusher with the maximum amount of damage, since the weakness of that appendage is -4. And you can also get a lot of damage that way as well. But even still, you can see I'm regularly hitting like nearly 10 million damage here with the Black Banes, which is really, really nice. 9 million there, so that's really, really nice to have. Black Butterfly is also doing a decent chunk. It's also doing about 8 million or like 6 million damage per pop, which is really, really nice since it has a pretty high damage ratio. It does a lot of the ether damage as well. So you have a lot of damage with the setup, assuming you set it up correctly. The knife is a really powerful weapon, really great as support, really solid damage dealer as well. Black Bane used to be the strongest damage art in the game before Hercules Blow existed, if you were able to set everything up properly. And I think that is hopefully being able to be showcased here, just how strong that art can be, which is really, really nice. You can also run this setup solo with a sleeper build if you really want to. You won't get as many debuffs, but it is an option you have available to you and can still be very effective if you really want to do that as well, just to kind of keep the enemy asleep and do a bunch of damage that way also. So that is definitely an option you have available to you, and, you know, it does work. So Black Bane, very, very flexible, can be very, very fun. You can do pretty much anything with it. Very strong art, very fun to do. I think that is going to cover it for this video, though. I don't want this video to drag out forever, and I think I've kind of proven the point about how this build works and just kind of showing it off. So we are probably going to wrap things up here. If you did enjoy the video, do be sure to like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends who are new to the game, support me any other way you feel like it. I would appreciate all of it regardless. Once again, thank you all so much for watching. Have a wonderful and blessed day, and hopefully I will see you back here soon for future guides and videos.